This episode of the A.T.TIPSCAST is sponsored by TextHelp Systems, provider of award-winning literacy solutions including Read and Write Gold and Fluency Tutor. For more information, go to www.texthelp.com. That's www.texthelp.com.
Hi everyone, this is Mark Nichols, Assistive Technology Coordinator with Loudoun County Public Schools. Have you heard of the Tech Flash? It's a blog specifically tailored to school administrators. You can find a variety of helpful posts ranging from managing digital resources to exploring tools that support the Universal Design for Learning framework. The most recent post highlights the work of my amazing assistive technology team and our newly designed AT website. If you haven't seen it, I strongly encourage you to visit www.loud.k12.va.us/AT. I imagine Chris will have this link on his compendium blog, so don't worry if you didn't have a chance to write all that down. For all my fellow tweeps out there, you can follow me on Twitter at TheTechFlash2. That would be 2 as in numeral 2. Well, some of you might be wondering about the music playing in the background. Let's just say that A.T.TIPSCAST is the only award-winning podcast I'd listen to while sitting on the beach in Antigua. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the A.T.TIPSCAST, exploring and investigating the implementation of assistive technology in public schools. I'm your host, Chris Bouguet. This is episode number 52, recorded on April 1st, 2010. When I was growing up, my parents shipped me down to Florida to stay with my grandmother and great-aunt Irene for a couple of summers. The two of them lived together in a condo down there. These summer vacations were filled with watching movies and old TV shows. I learned about Matlock, Jessica Fletcher, Barnaby Jones, and Perry Mason. My grandmother and Aunt Irene always exercised their brain while watching these shows. In fact, I can't remember a single time either of them wasn't doing something else when the TV was on. My grandmother had an affinity for crafts, knitting, needlepoint, cross-stitch. She was always using her hands to create something. My Aunt Irene enjoyed puzzles. She had stacks of crossword puzzles that she'd do while watching these shows. Also, out on the patio, there was always a jigsaw puzzle in progress. I can't tell you how many hours I spent sitting out on that patio with a cup of iced tea and a bowl full of cut-up cantaloupe crouched over a jigsaw puzzle. Thinking back on it now, I wonder what it was about those activities that my grandmother and Aunt Irene enjoyed so much. What was it that made them want to do a craft or complete a puzzle? Was it because doing crafts and puzzles exercise different parts of your brain all at once? Crafts and puzzles are rich with colors, provide opportunities to work both visually and spatially, along with components of logical reasoning, not to mention the vocabulary. Unlike most games where competition is the spirit, the heart of a puzzle lies within collaboration. Also, when you're playing a game, there's an unknown, unpredictable outcome. You don't know who's going to win. A puzzle is more structured with a finite outcome. If you haven't lost any pieces, then they all have to fit somewhere. We'll find where they all go, and, in the end, we'll have completed a nicely organized picture where everything fits perfectly, and just like the plot of an old Perry Mason episode. I suppose it's for all these reasons that I've started to see more and more puzzles pop up in special education programs. I've started to see more and more teachers have classroom puzzles, where students go over and work on the puzzle when they feel like they need a break from other work. Together, as a whole, the classroom is working on completing the puzzle. When I'm doing a puzzle now with my own kids, I see their enthusiasm for putting it together. I witness firsthand how they use their fine motor abilities to manipulate the pieces, their visual-spatial abilities to see if shapes fit, their reasoning skills to decide if the colors on the puzzle pieces make sense with the surrounding pieces, and more. Jigsaw puzzles are one example of something that allows students to practice their fine motor, visual-spatial, and logical reasoning skills, and most people have those laying around their house, or they can be commonly found in a school, which is why I'm calling Jigsaw puzzles A.T.TIP number 84. As I was playing with my kids, it occurred to me that there is something else very similar to a jigsaw puzzle that can be used to practice all of those same skills.
My name is Optimus Prime. We are autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron.
But you can call us Autobots for short.
That's right. We're talking about A.T.TIP number 85, Transformers.
Autobots, roll out!
Bumblebee, Bluestreak, Ironhide, Ratchet, Cliffjumper, Prowl, Jazz, Sideswipe, Hound, Mirage, Trailbreaker, Optimus Prime, and more. These are just a few of the Autobots who struggle against the evil Decepticons like Starscream, Shockwave, Soundwave, Shrapnel, Kickback, Scrapper, Bonecrusher, and, of course, Megatron.
It's you and me, Megatron. No, it's just me, Prime.
Any Transformers toy, either from the original series or any updated newer model based on the animated series, or more recent Michael Bay movies, would make an excellent educational tool. That's right, you heard me correctly. Transformers can be used as educational tools, just like puzzles. You doubt me? You think maybe I've lost my mind, do you? Well, let's just break it down. Fine motor practice. Have you ever tried to transform a transformer from a vehicle into a robot, or vice versa? It isn't necessarily easy. Like a puzzle, you have to use your fingers and hands to twist and turn different parts of the toy around into different positions. In some cases, you have to apply just enough force to make something fit, or push a fulcrum to make a head pop out, or pull a lever to make a hand pop out. Some transformers are easier than others to manipulate, but they all require some level of dexterity to transform. Visual-spatial practice. Unlike a puzzle, which is mostly done on a flat two-dimensional surface, transforming a transformer involves 3 dimensions. The visual-spatial skills necessary to transform a transformer are more akin to a Rubik's Cube than a jigsaw puzzle. Well, unless it's one of those 3-dimensional jigsaw puzzles. When transforming a transformer from robot to vehicle or robot to dinosaur, you have to flip parts, rotate axes, and make pieces fit where they're supposed to fit. Logical reasoning. When creating a car, the tires go on the bottom. The windshield goes in the front. The taillights go in the back. That's how cars look. When creating an airplane, the wings go out to the sides. The cockpit is at midline. The engines go in the back. When transforming a transformer, all of the components of the transformer need to be put in their proper position, or it won't look right. If transforming it into a vehicle, all the components of the vehicle need to be snapped in place, or it won't move correctly. Vocabulary building. Body parts, contemporary animals, dinosaurs, vehicles, outer space, and more are just some of the nouns students would be exposed to when working with transformers. Think of all the prepositions in spatial language that are used when talking about transforming a transformer. In, on, over, across, between, around, in front of, behind, and more are all examples of prepositions students might use when discussing how they transformed a transformer. Furthermore, it's impossible to talk about transforming a transformer without using verbs like flip, twist, turn, move, bend, break, swivel, adjust, push, pull, separate, and more. Narrative information. Plot, dialogue, protagonists, antagonists, conflict, resolution, and any other concept that might involve learning the structure of a story are all parts of the Transformers. Whether reading about the Transformers mythos from books or websites, or creating new storylines by acting out scenarios with the Transformers in class, students can learn a lot about the elements involved in creating a story. Taking a break. When a student does need to take a break, going over to work on the puzzle is just one way to take a troubled mind off whatever is causing the trouble. Transformers provide an alternative escape to students when they need a break, and often a transformer can be transformed start to finish in the amount of time a typical break might last. Motivation. What's more motivating to a student than going to play with toys? Picture a row of 10 Transformers on a shelf. 10 robots staring at the student begging to be transformed into their respective vehicles or animals. After a student completes an assignment, the reward is to transform one robot into its respective vehicle. The goal for the day is not to complete 10 assignments, but to transform 10 Transformers. Now, it is true that Transformers aren't free. This podcast typically suggests tools that are free or commonly available. So I ask you, do you know a family member who has a basement or attic with an old box of Transformers? I can name at least 3 family members right now off the top of my head who have told me that they have a box just like that in their house. I'm guessing someone is jumping into your mind's eye right now that you know who probably has a box full of Transformers in their basement. So, the next time you see a Transformer, ask yourself, is it just a silly toy, or is there more there than meets the eye? A couple of news items before I wrap up this episode. First, the book has been published. You can order your copy right now over at isti.org/chew-at. That again is isti.org/chew-at. One more thing, you heard an advertisement at the beginning of this episode for TextHelp. I'm proud to announce that TextHelp is now a sponsor of the A.T.TIPSCAST. You might be wondering how all this came about. Well, basically, maintaining the A.T.TIPSCAST is not free. There is a certain level of production costs associated with it, including paying for server space to house the episodes. With the number of episodes up on CyberEars, I had to upgrade my account if I wanted to keep all the episodes available, or I'd have to start pulling down some of the older episodes in order to make room for the newer ones. It was either upgrade and pay more per month for server space, or pull down the old episodes. In order to offset the cost of the server upgrade, I started actively pursuing advertisers. I approached TextHelp because I use their product, Read and Write Gold. I'm a big fan of the product and train others how to use it all the time with my job, so it seemed like a good match. Rather than approaching a company I knew nothing about, I wanted to work with a company where I was actually a user and a fan of their product. So, you'll be hearing additional advertisements for TextHelp products in future episodes. I hope you check them out. I think you'll find them very useful in bringing about meaningful change for your students. Also, I'd like to thank Mark Nichols for sending in that bumper. I hope you check out his blog. And just like he said, I'll have that linked over at A.T.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com. Also, Sally and I did an interview for the ISTE Author podcast series. We answer some questions about the book, talk about some strategies for any assistive technology team, and discuss some of the pranks we've pulled over the years. I dropped that in the A.T.TIPSCAST feed as well, and I have it linked over at A.T.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com. I've also completed the staff development question and answer booklets for volumes 5, 6, and 7 of the A.T.TIPSCAST. The question booklets can be downloaded from the blog as well. I crunched the numbers, and volumes 1 through 7 alone provide more than 8.5 hours worth of content. There are a number of school districts that have already started to implement the A.T.TIPSCAST as a form of professional development, and if you're one of those school districts, I'd love to hear some of the feedback from the educators who are listening. And finally, as I wrap up this episode, I just want to say, may all your interventions be inclusive, may all your strategies be supportive, may all your changes be transformative, and have a happy April Fool's Day.
We live among its people now, hiding in plain sight, but watching over them in secret, waiting, protecting. I have witnessed their capacity for courage, and though we are worlds apart, like us, there's more to them than meets the eye. We are here. We are waiting.